Hi, my name is Irina, and I'm a 27-year-old Romanian from Bucharest. The story I'm going to share with you shows how crazy life can be. From a young age, I had a huge crush on my best friend Chris, who was 5 years older than me. Our parents grew up together, so that meant we naturally became close friends. I have so many childhood memories of time spent with Chris. My favorite one was from when I was about 6 years old. For some reason, I was really upset, so Chris took a flashlight and shined it on the wall, then did a shadow puppet story for me using his hands. It's seriously one of the most precious memories I have. Also, whenever any other boy came anywhere near me, Chris would jump in and tell them to go away. It was like I had my own personal bodyguard. I always looked up to him, but the older I got, the more jealous I became any time a girl would go near him. That's the moment when I realized I had a major crush on him. We hung out all the time, but I never plucked up the courage to tell him how I felt. When I was 13, my family threw a New Year's party at our house. Chris was there, and the whole night we kept exchanging glances. At some point, I got up to go to the store, and he jumped up and offered to keep me company. On our way to the store, it was like time had stopped. Talking to him felt like the most natural thing in the world, and I just knew in my heart that we belonged together. On our way back to the party, I got the biggest shock of my life. Out of the blue, Chris turned to me and kissed me. I couldn't believe it! Then, he told me he'd always had a crush on me, but the 5-year age gap scared him too much, so he had never told me about it. As quickly as I'd got my hopes up, they disappeared. Clearly, that meant we couldn't be together. I was so disappointed. It was as if he'd read my mind because he kissed me again and told me not to worry, and he promised me that if our paths ever crossed again, he'd marry me. That was the last time I saw him. His parents got a divorce, and him and his mom moved away, so we lost contact. But life has to go on, right? Throughout the next years, I had other relationships, and after college, I met someone. We fell in love and got married. It all moved quite fast, and right after our wedding, we moved to Italy. But that's when things went downhill. Back when we were in Romania, we spent a lot of time with our friends and had different schedules, so I'd only see my husband in the evenings. But in Italy, we were together all the time. Suddenly, we had no friends, only each other. And the more time we spent together, the more we realized how little we actually had in common. My husband felt like a stranger to me. We almost never kissed. He came home just to sleep, and I realized we were more like roommates than husband and wife. We started fighting, and I moved into the other room. After a few weeks of this, I couldn't take it anymore. We both realized if we continued, we'd never be happy, and we cared about each other too much to live a life like that. We decided to start filing for a divorce. We were adults and came to the conclusion that we'd be better off as friends. That was the toughest time of my life. But luckily, God has sent down an angel to help me. One day, I was coming home from work when something crazy happened. I received a Facebook friend request and almost dropped my phone when I realized who it was from. It was Chris! I hadn't seen or heard from him in 13 years. What a surprise! Of course, I immediately called him, and when he picked up, I almost cried. It felt so good to hear his voice again. We ended up chatting for hours, and I told him everything that had happened. You won't believe it, but he said he'd wait for me. After all those years, I was still the love of his life. In the years we'd spent apart, Chris has also had other relationships, but he never got married because he never lost hope that we'd meet again. He told me I was the only one he'd ever want to marry. On my 26th birthday, my divorce was finalized, and Chris was there for me during this whole time. Afterwards, we moved back to our hometown together, and I've never been happier. Never in my wildest dreams did I imagine we'd meet again. And we were both worried about what our families would think, but everyone was so happy for us. A few months after we'd moved home, I discovered that my fave artist of all time, Jacob Lee, would be playing a 2-day concert in our town. We went to watch him, and it was so much fun. His music was so symbolic of our love story. On the second day, we went to see him again, and it ended up being the best day of my life. The promise that Chris had made 13 years before suddenly became a reality. At some point during the performance, Chris was invited up on stage and started telling everyone our story. Then I got called up to join him on stage. I was so nervous, but deep in my heart, I knew what was about to happen. And sure enough, at my favorite artist in the whole world's concert, Chris got down on one knee and proposed to me in front of almost 600 people! Can you believe it? Of course, I immediately said yes, and now we're planning our dream wedding, and the best part of it all is that not only do I get to marry my childhood crush, but Jacob Lee is also invited to our wedding! It's like the best thing that ever happened to me! Jacob's song Chariot is going to be our wedding song, and the lyric Promise to Love You All My Life is pretty relevant to our love story. Don't you think?